Few things we need to clear up, and one vital thing we need to know. We haven't lifted the car up in the ramp yet, but a few of you people have commented before we continue on to do anything else about a potential crack in the gearbox, which I really want to know about. There's a photo on the screen now which Bob sent me and a lot of you guys seen from the video.
Matt Armstrong's Bugatti Chiron rebuild just had its most terrifying moment yet, and it came not from the garage, but from the comments section. After months of painstaking work, the Chiron is fully reassembled. Engine and gearbox connected. The rear subframe bolted to the front monocoque with all 14 titanium bolts. Every electrical connector plugged in, brake system bled, battery installed. This thing is essentially a complete car again. And then, just as Matt was letting himself believe the hard part was over, viewers watching the reassembly footage spotted something that threatened to unravel everything. A line near the gearbox solenoids. One that looked exactly like a hairline crack. Here's why that single observation sent shockwaves through the entire project. When Copart originally listed this crashed Chiron for sale, the damage description specifically mentioned hairline cracks in the gearbox. Matt and Tony had always assumed that referred to the gearbox mounting bracket, the component that was visibly destroyed in the crash and that Bob later welded and reinforced. But what if Copart's listing meant something else entirely? What if there were actual cracks in the gearbox casing itself, and Matt had just bolted the whole car back together on top of a ticking time bomb? If that crack was real, the rebuild wasn't just in trouble. It was potentially over. A cracked gearbox housing isn't something you repair. You can't weld a transmission casing on a car like this, fill it with epoxy, and hope for the best. The entire unit would need to be replaced. And on a Bugatti Chiron, that's not a trip to the parts store. Bugatti doesn't sell replacement gearboxes for crashed cars. The vehicles are too valuable, the components too proprietary, and the support structure simply doesn't exist for privately owned rebuilds like this one. The used market for a W16 Chiron gearbox is, for all practical purposes, non-existent. You'd be looking at months of searching, a price that might not even have a number yet, and no guarantee you'd ever find one. And that's before you even consider the labor. To replace the gearbox, Matt would have to reverse every single step of reassembly. Disconnect all the electronics. Unbolt the subframe. Separate the front and rear halves of the car. Pull the gearbox off the engine. It would mean going all the way back to square one on a car that just came together for the first time. The worst part? If the crack had been there from the start and Matt had known about it earlier, he could have dealt with it during the disassembly phase, when everything was already apart. The timing couldn't have been worse. This is exactly why Matt films everything in 4K. A viewer named Bob paused the reassembly footage, examined it closely, and sent Matt a photo highlighting a suspicious line near the gearbox solenoids. Other fans followed up independently, pointing to the same spot. The detail was only visible because the footage had enough resolution to show it. Lower quality video would have never revealed it. The crack, or whatever it was, would have gone completely unnoticed. Matt posted a dedicated update to address the concern directly. He wasn't dismissive about it. He understood immediately why people flagged it and what the stakes were if they were right. So instead of reassuring viewers from behind a desk, he put the Chiron up on the ramp and went to look for himself. Matt and Tony located the spot in question, right near the solenoids, the electronic actuators that control gear selection in the Chiron's dual-clutch transmission. It's a structurally important area. Any crack there wouldn't just be cosmetic. It would compromise the integrity of the entire gearbox housing, eventually allowing fluid to escape and internal components to fail. The line was visible in person, just as it had been in the footage. That alone was enough to keep the tension high. But then Matt ran his finger across it. Nothing. No edge. No ridge. A real crack has a physical discontinuity you can feel. The surface is interrupted. This surface wasn't. Matt grabbed a cloth and wiped the area down, and the line disappeared entirely. It wasn't a crack. It was residue, most likely a mixture of oil, dirt, and old fluid that had settled into a slight surface imperfection on the gearbox casing and dried there over time. In photos and video, that dark line sitting in a shallow groove looked exactly like a hairline fracture. In person, cleaned up, it was nothing. The relief was immediate and completely justified. With the gearbox confirmed intact, Matt turned his attention to understanding what actually happened during the crash itself, because the more he studies the damage pattern, the more he appreciates just how well this car held together. The engine mounting bracket broke. That much was established early in the rebuild. The impact from FXG's crash allowed the W16 engine to shift forward, which is how the bracket failed. But something had to stop that forward movement before it caused catastrophic damage to the gearbox or the front structure. So what was it? The prop shaft. The drive shaft connecting the gearbox to the front differential effectively acted as a mechanical hard stop, limiting how far the engine could travel during the impact. It absorbed and redirected the forces that would otherwise have concentrated directly on the gearbox housing. That's why the casing survived without cracking. The energy had somewhere else to go. What makes this interesting from an engineering standpoint is the material difference between the components that failed and the ones that didn't. The bracket that broke is cast aluminum, a manufacturing process that produces parts efficiently but leaves them more brittle under sudden impact loads. The prop shaft components are billet aluminum, machined from solid stock, which makes them significantly stronger and more resistant to the kind of shock loading that happens in a collision. The weaker part broke first. The stronger part survived. And critically, the part that broke is the one that was designed to be replaceable. The gearbox is not. Whether it was intentional design philosophy or fortunate engineering, the hierarchy of component strength worked exactly as you'd want it to in a crash. The sacrificial part sacrificed itself. The irreplaceable part came through intact. Matt took time in his update to thank the community for flagging the concern, even after it turned out to be a false alarm. And that gratitude is worth understanding in context, because the false alarm being false doesn't mean the people who raised it were wrong to raise it. If that line had been a real crack, undetected, ignored, brushed off, here's what would have happened. The car gets completed. It starts. It drives. And then, somewhere down the road, under heat and vibration and the stress loads of a running W16, that crack grows. Hairline fractures propagate. They don't stay hairline forever. Eventually, the casing develops a breach, transmission fluid escapes, and depending on timing and conditions, the gearbox destroys itself from the inside. The discovery wouldn't come during a careful static inspection on a ramp. It would come when something fails violently, possibly while the car is moving. Catching a potential crack during a rebuild, even one that turns out to be nothing, is always the right call. The cost of investigating is a few hours. The cost of missing a real one is the entire project. The 4K footage made the catch possible. The community made the catch happen. Millions of viewers examining high-resolution footage will always find things that one or two people miss in real time, under shop lighting, with grease on their hands and 100 other things demanding attention. That's not a flaw in Matt and Tony's process. It's a genuine advantage of documenting this kind of build publicly and in detail. The Copart listing question is also worth revisiting now that the gearbox has been fully inspected. The original damage description mentioned hairline cracks in the gearbox, and that language caused real confusion when viewers spotted the suspicious line. But with the gearbox casing confirmed clean, Matt's original assumption about the listing appears to be correct. Copart's inspector almost certainly saw the severely damaged mounting bracket, noted cracking in the gearbox area, and reported it without distinguishing between the housing itself and the bracket attached to it. For someone without specific knowledge of Bugatti's drivetrain architecture, that's an understandable call. The bracket and the casing are physically close and functionally connected. Cracking in one, from a damage assessment standpoint, can look like cracking in both. The listing wasn't wrong. Exactly. It was imprecise in a way that created a months-long cloud of uncertainty over one of the most critical components in the car. That uncertainty is now gone. The Chiron rebuild continues on multiple fronts. Matt is in Miami handling final assembly while additional work progresses back at the UK workshop simultaneously. There's still real work left. The front radiators need installing, the coolant system needs to be filled and checked before the engine runs, and body panels still need their final fitting. The bigger remaining unknown is whether FXG's decision to keep driving the car with no coolant caused any damage to the water pump seals or the turbos. That question only gets answered once the engine actually runs. But the threat that was hanging over all of it, a cracked gearbox that would have forced a complete teardown and an impossible parts search, is gone. The car stays together. The rebuild stays on track. A false alarm is the best possible version of a scary discovery. This one turned out to be cleaning residue. Sometimes that's exactly how it goes.